Hey everyone, and welcome back to another adventure. Today I have come to Matthiessen State Park here in northern Illinois, and I've decided to hike down into the lower loop trail today to shoot the main waterfall of the park. Now the waterfall that's down here, it's flowing fairly well for it being August. Usually in spring and fall is flowing at its best, but we have had a good amount of rain in the area lately, so there is a decent flow to it. It could be better, but hey, it's still pretty good. Now what I've done is I've come down here and I've kind of set up a composition, and I already have my camera set up on the tripod here. I'm using the Z7 II and the 70-200, and I'm kind of zoomed in back there trying to set up a bit of a compressed composition like I did in my previous video. Now for those that haven't seen the last video, when I did the upper loop hike here at Matthiessen, go check that out if you haven't seen it yet, because I'm explaining kind of exactly what I'm doing in that video again in this video, but this time instead of using the 24-70 lens, I'm using the 70-200 lens, and I'm much farther back from the waterfall. In my last video, you may have noticed that I was pretty close to it. I was probably within, 50 yards of the waterfall. At this point, I'm probably 100 yards away, maybe even more. And the reason being is because, similar to the last video, I want to use my telephoto lens to compress all this detail that I have behind me here into a single image. And basically what I'm figuring out here as I'm kind of playing around with compositions is that I'm going to want to shoot this in a vertical composition and zoom almost all the way in, because the waterfall comes down into this beautiful basin back there, and there's a bridge that kind of goes over the top, and the edges are filled with trees. Everything looks really beautiful. It's another somewhat cloudy day. I'm getting some dappled light through the trees, so I might get lucky and get a couple bursts of sunlight. If I do, that'll be really awesome, because who doesn't love sun rays? But even if I don't, I'm still excited to be out here. Just another quick little morning hike this morning to get out and just get a few shots. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna start getting the camera set up here. I'm gonna get my filter kit put on. I'll explain everything that I'm using here in a moment, and then we'll start taking some shots. All right guys, so I'm all set up. I'm ready to take my first shot here. As you saw, I was putting some filters on the front of the camera. Now this is the Wolverine, or the Case Wolverine magnetic kit. This is just the Wolverine circular polarizer. Pops right onto the adapter ring that I put onto the front of the lens. This is a really fast and awesome filter system. I love using it. It is usually always on my camera if my Lee system is not. So what I've done is I've gone ahead, I've put my circular polarizer on. I'm gonna dial in the polarization here, and then I'm gonna start kind of composing a shot. And like I said in last week's video, and like I've said in previous videos, you just really wanna pay attention to what is contributing to your shot and what is subtracting from your shot. Right now, I'm at 200 millimeters, and I've excluded a lot of the ground clutter that's in this image, that's in this composition. And what I'm trying to do is kind of find leading lines along this big rock face that lead me right into this waterfall, but also use the compression of the 70-200 in shooting vertically to catch the bridge and the light coming through the trees above the bridge and above this waterfall, and kind of bring that all into one cohesive composition. Now it is tricky, because doing this, you kind of have to move around some, just like we discussed in my last video when I was doing the upper loop hike here last weekend. Now, when you're down here, there's a lot of water. There's all kinds of stuff that's just in here. You got rocks and tree limbs and sticks and all kinds of things laying all over the place. So just things to keep in mind when you're setting your composition. Try to exclude that ground clutter. Try to get all those little things out of the shot. If they're not helping the image, they're hurting it. The other thing that you want to be paying attention to is where your light is falling at in the image. Right now, I have light coming through the treetops here. The waterfall is illuminated fairly well. It is a cloudy day, so the clouds are kind of acting as a natural diffuser for me, and I'm getting that nice even light back there. But again, you have to be careful, watch your light and watch your shadows, kind of see where everything's falling and put a composition together based on that information. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start taking a couple test shots here. We're gonna move around. I do want to eventually get closer to the waterfall because there are some really cool caves up there that I wanna shoot. But I at least wanna start back here and getting this first composition with the 70-200 from 200 millimeters all the way back here. I'll show you guys that first shot here in a moment. So what I've done is I've moved about 50 yards forward from where I was taking the initial composition, and I feel like this composition is more powerful, it's more coherent, it just makes more sense up here. Now, I am zoomed in to about 135 millimeters instead of 200, and I feel like that's about where I figured I was gonna be when I moved up, and it just seems to make more sense up here. The composition seems stronger. And what I've done in moving forward and, you know, kind of adjusting my focal length and just moving around a little is, again, I've removed a lot of that clutter from the foreground and tried to just compress more of what's important into my scene. Now, again, I'm shooting vertical. So what I've noticed is that I can get a pretty decent shot of just the waterfall doing a vertical composition, but the other thing I want to try is I want to go ahead and attempt to do a 4-shot horizontal panorama shooting vertical. So basically I'm going to take 4 images from right to left and I'm going to blend them all together in post-processing and try to make a larger image out of those shots. And I wanted to try it here because I feel like this makes the most sense. This shot is a great opportunity to demonstrate this and show you guys how this works. There are going to be additional videos coming out in the future on how to do panoramic shots and how I do panoramic shots. Technically, you should have a nodal rail on the bottom of the camera and you should be finding the center of the lens. There's a bunch of technical little things that go into it, but I have done my best to center the lens over the center point of the tripod here using the lens foot itself. And basically what I'm going to do is go ahead and pivot from the right side of the scene all the way over to the left side of the scene, capture these images, and then like I said, I'm going to put them all together in post-processing. One thing I want to keep in mind here though is that because I am shooting telephoto, my depth of field is going to be changing as I move. My depth of field is going to be more compressed because I'm compressing more information. So not only do I have to do a 4-panel image, but I also have to focus stack each panel to make sure that I'm getting the maximum sharpness and clarity in the images before I blend them all together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get started on this. I'm going to start at the right and move to the left. I'll show you guys the end result here in just a moment. And then from there we can go ahead and move a little bit closer to this waterfall, see if there's any other compositions up there that might be interesting. And then we'll go ahead and get this hike wrapped up because the sun does look like it's starting to come out a little bit. There are more people coming to the park and I don't want to be, you know, back here hogging up the waterfall or anything like that. So let's go ahead and get started and I'll show you guys the final image here in just a moment. I walked back to the falls and I brought the camera and everything with, and I was just kind of hiking around it, taking a look around at things. I didn't really see much of anything as far as compositions that jumped out at me. There are some really cool features in the rocks, and I'm thinking what I'm going to be doing is just coming back in the fall when the falls are hopefully flowing a little bit better. And I'll be getting some more compositions then once everything has changed color-wise and the falls are flowing a bit more. I think it's really going to be an even better spot than it was today. But I'll be making a video about that in the future. Until then, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, help the channel grow. It is very much appreciated. I will be coming back to you guys again here shortly with another video, but until then, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here on the channel. I appreciate it greatly. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.